get this going, and I think I got it. Holy cow. Okay, so I've got new equipment, and this is what's going on. I'm just flipping trying to figure it out. Hello, and thank you and welcome for coming in. This is How-To Diorama with Scale Modelcraft. I'm Bill, and you know, if you've seen this before and you like it, I don't know why you would like it now after that intro or that start. But yeah, please say thanks or put a thumbs up and subscribe, and it might get better. You never know. Hey, and I saw Paul Christopher earlier. If I could paint us here. Hello, if I could paint. Great to see you. Thanks very much. And today is going to be kind of fun. So if I can figure out all this camera stuff, that'd be just fantastic. But what we're going to talk about is kind of blocking in my new diorama. You know, how you start that. Taking your pink foam and really getting an idea of what your diorama is going to look like. I mean, that's a big part of it, right? If you don't start that groundwork out right, if you don't start kind of the base, that's the foundation for everything. And so we're going to look at that. And I'm going to talk to you about it. The other thing we're going to do is we're going to do a big comparison. So I'm going to try to show you these slides now again without going bonkers with the cameras and all that kind of stuff. And then I got even a blank one there. But I'm going to compare these two. So just my feedback, my personal feedback from building these two kits over the last couple of weeks, putting them together, and certainly some tips, because I found that there were some specifics that if I'd have known the first time, just having done that, or if I'd done this kind of thing a little bit more, I could have got a better result. Now, I fixed everything, and I'm really happy with both kits, but I want you to know going in what that stuff is. So we're going to look at that. Hey, Scott is here. Thank you very much, Scott, for coming on. I'm here looking forward to being educated. Well, I don't know about that, Scott. It's a lot of times it's watching me just kind of, walk into the wall, not realizing the door's not open, that kind of thing. So that's what you're going to see today. Hey, I made it. Hey, Mark, thanks very much for coming in. I prepared also some kind of like visual aids about some of the problems that I found. I'm going to show you. I've got this cool deal now where I can, switch between cameras, and I'm hoping that's going to go a lot better. But these are going to show you a neat issue, how to kind of fix it with, just a couple of things you can add and things that I didn't do when I was building it, which I really wish I would have thought of ahead of time. So I'll show you how I fixed it, but also I'll show you how to kind of prevent it from happening. So that'll be the first part. Then we're going to go into the blocking, blocking on a new diorama. And then this is kind of fun. So last week we talked about this diorama, but I didn't have this diorama. It was at my nephew's house because I built it for him many years ago in 2018. Well, he came over, he was on leave. And so he came over and we looked at it and he asked me if I could repair it. And I'm like, you betcha. So I'm going to show you, number one, some of the repairs that I'm going to be doing to it. Mostly it's with the vehicle, not this. But I want you to also see how this thing aged, because I had some questions this week on snow. If you're using snow, what would you recommend? Well, what I use is Woodland Scenics, and I've got the Woodland Scenics that I used on this 5 years ago, and I'm going to show you how it kind of turned out and, how it's held up over 5 years after making it. Now, this was not covered. It was on a shelf. So there could be some dirt, but specifically the point I'm trying to get to is some people have said that Woodland Scenics will yellow, and I want to kind of confirm or whatever from, my own personal experience. So we're going to look at that, and that'll be the last thing we do today. So thank you very much. Hey, Eric is here. Thank you very much for coming on, Eric. I really appreciate it. So I was just kind of running down what we're going to do. We're going to look at 3 things today. And so we'll just dive into the first one. These armored cars, I want to talk about just the kits in general first. This is the first one that I built. It is in the picture here to that side. That is the Meng Rolls-Royce armored car. Here, I've just got it to primer. When I'm building a diorama, I like to get what other vehicle or things that I'm utilizing, I want to get them to primer. And then I can start on that because it also gives me a nice look at the shadows and things like that. I'm not going to paint them yet because I want to paint them when I do my terrain, when I do the rest of the diorama, and the paint is part of that process. But building this went pretty well. It was a used kit, meaning to say that somebody else had it. I purchased it from somebody else, so I don't know how it was stored. There were some parts that were a little bit warped, so everything wasn't straight. Specifically in doing the fuselage, the frame and the subframe and some of these components. Other than that, it went together really well. There was a little bit more flash than I've seen on these kits, but it went together pretty darn nicely. And the only problems that I really had was when I got to the wheels. Now, this has photo etch wire wheels. It has a secondary set of wheels, and I'm going to try to show you here. In this picture, we can see the steel wheels that came with this main model because you could build it in two configurations. The previous or this configuration, I should say, is for World War I. So that's when it was designed, and that's when it was first deployed, was when World War I. But in 1920, they went to the steel wheel. They also had some other changes. They went to a different turret on top, and they also had different armament and some fenders. Curious to why they changed fenders and lights. So there's a little bit of a difference between the two. Well, the first time I built this, I got into a problem with these wheels. This is the hub of one of these rear wheels. They're dualies, and so it was kind of a process to get those things built up, and I just hosed it up. And I got so frustrated, excuse me, that I literally pushed the hub through when I was working on it. So I do that, real happy about that. And I look at using the steel wheels. Excuse me, I'm very sorry. I'm trying not to cough, but I'm got an issue with it. So what I did was I took that hub, that completely thrown hub over here, and I re-straightened everything out. I cut them down and I removed the little outer perimeter, what would be like the rim of the photo etch, and then mounted it inside here on my own. So this is what it looks like. Excuse me, I'm so sorry. Before I put a hub in there, then I put this little wire hub, not wire, white styrene. I cut that, I put that in there, glued it in, and that worked pretty good. Then I went ahead and flipped it over, and then I had to put these on, cut them off, those same little outside, rim pieces. I had to cut those off, and then I reassembled the wheel. The biggest thing that I learned from this is that very first piece that you put together in this sequence has to be done absolutely perfect. If that's not done perfect, if you don't set that in there properly and follow those instructions, everything else will fall apart. I did rebuild, so I rebuilt this one. This was the first dually that I did. I did then the second dually and followed the instructions, was very careful, and it went together fine. Just my experience. So I was able to go ahead and put those wheels on this and kind of, pull it out of the ditch and get this thing working. So all in all, it's a fine kit. There's nothing wrong with it. I think the warping is possibly due to it was a used kit and maybe it was in storage for a while. It's a little bit older kit, 3-4 years old. So that's kind of my feedback on it. Fair amount of flash. Just follow the instructions. Be super careful. If you're a PE person, if you've done these spoke wheels before, you'll know it is doable, and I did it properly, and it does work. But man, it was a son of a gun. Okay, so that is my experience with that. Um, I'm not sure if I'm going to use this one because in that process, what I also did was I wasn't sure about which direction I was going to go. And I was putting on other parts that were maybe from the other one. And these front guys right here, it's they're, I don't know if they're for dust or for cold weather, but it's armor for the radiator and they can be propped open, stuff like that. Well, I put on the later version, on the newer version, or on the, I put on the later version on the older chassis that I wanted. So it's a little out of spec. So we'll see. But it was a pretty good build and a nice build. So now I'm going to go ahead and talk about the Copper State. So this is Copper State models. It's a little bit different, but they shared their time on the battlefield because they worked in the same area. They served some of the same purpose, RNAS and things like that. So Royal Naval, I'm sorry, I don't know what that is. Anyway, so it was a pretty good kit. But what I noticed right off the bat was that every single piece had to be worked on. And what I mean by that is, okay, I've got like a little tab or something. I'm going to come back to that picture. But here, and I'm going to make this bigger than my melon head here so you can see it. Everything in here had to be worked on just a little bit to make it fit. And I'm not just talking about regular cleaning, but if you look inside here at these corners right here and here, well, that's also where the connection point to the sprue was. And so it's in a channel. So when those connection points are in a channel on a sprue, that makes it really difficult to clean. You cannot pass that thing up. You've got to clean that out. Well, okay, that's fine. But I guess the point that also kind of got to me was the fact that, like on these, now this also shows you how terrible of a builder I am, but the little dome part on the back of these headlights goes with the forward part on the headlight, and there's no alignment or indicator or indentation. You're just literally centering those on that front little I guess flange it's called, the bigger part at the bottom. So there's no alignment there. There's other alignment places on other things, but this one just didn't have it. So it was just things like that. The other thing is this. If you look at these running boards along the bottom here, I don't want to be too critical on that because that could be a point of, where it had been stored maybe, and maybe it got a little hot. Well, okay, maybe that was the problem. And so but those things are like they're wavy. They're not just bent, they're wavy. So it goes in one direction. It's like an S, but flattened out pretty good. So again, I don't know if that was due to storage and being somewhere for a long time, but yeah, that kind of stuff, they're really difficult. I tried to straighten them out. You're not gonna. So I might replace them with actual wood. I've got some really thin, really cool looking wood, and this long here is supposed to be wood. And so I just might replace it. There's nothing wrong with that at all. Okay, so that's it. Now, what I want to do is this. I want to go back up to the top here and look at this. So this shows a couple of issues that I want to talk about. So the first one being here, this hinge right on top here. So this is supposed to show a hinge. It's on both vehicles, by the way. So this is a common thing. These were supposed to be able to open up and closed. Well, you could not fit those together. Those hinges are like two knuckles, and it's designed well. It's just the tolerances seem to be off a little bit. So what's supposed to happen is those two hinges are supposed to kind of go in like this. Well, you can't just out of the box. You have to get in there and fiddle with it. And so that's what I'm trying to highlight here. There was fiddling, or there was modifying or shaving down past the point of cleaning, but to the point of trying to make it actually fit. So if I have, tab A going into slot B, either tab A is too big or slot B is too small. So one of those two things on virtually everything that I came across on this model had to be done that way. Now, I mean, I don't know what plastic does over time, if it possibly swells. I've never seen it with another kit. It's typically, oh, sorry, I bumped the mic there. It's typically something, based on, we've not quite got our tolerances exactly right. So that seemed to be a little bit of an issue. Able to work through it. It's just something you can clean up with possibly files, scrapers, knives, whatever. That's fine. The wheels were fantastic. Love the wheels. Very nicely molded. They went together very well. Flash on everything, ejection pins. But there was one thing that really, really bothered me that I didn't notice before I put together, and that was how the panels fit together. And that's what causes this issue that I'm showing right here. Let me show you a bigger picture of this. So this issue is caused by the alignment method the top panel of the vehicle and the side panel of the vehicle employs in the model. And I'll show you what I mean. I made a little visual aid for you. So these are supposed to be like just pieces. So like, let's say this is the top panel, okay? And this is the side panel. And on the inside of the joint, and I colored these so you could see it very easily, it's a 45-degree angle, okay? Well, that 45-degree angle is kind of hard to clamp, right? Or to get to a line. So I've got the other side, that's 45 too, but I colored them differently so you can see what happens when you try to align them. So what you do is you go in there and you're taking your side panel, right? And you're taking your top panel and you're doing this little monkey business, trying to get the thing to line up, here or there or whatever. And so you can see if you're a little bit too high, you can see it's overlapping, a little bit too low, then that's overlapping. And what it's causing then is also a misalignment of the distance of the two sides, because if this thing is too far down, it's pushing the side out. And so that's what happened here for me. Again, my deal, I did it. I could have done it better, but I just thought, if I have recognized it, first off, number one, more experience as a modeler, sure, you're going to figure that out earlier on. And I just didn't have as much experience with that kind of joint, though I have seen it before. I thought, how do you fix it? Well, here's what I came up with. So I wanted to show you 3 different methods to go ahead and handle that. And basically all you're doing is giving yourself what's called an index point or a stop, whatever you want to call it. And so these have kind of been blown up to much larger size so you can see what I'm talking about. And so the first one is up here, and that's just simply taking a piece of thicker styrene right there, either from the model or from your stash or whatever you got, and you just glue it on the edge like that. And then when you bring this in, it rests on it and gives you a perfectly nice edge. Okay. And so that's what I should have done. I'm not telling you to do it. I'm telling you, this is what I said, looking back 2020, this is what I should have done. So that would have helped me, number one, align that corner much more properly, but also not push out the side so that other things that had to be added to it didn't end up aligning. So that was the issue. Now, the second one that I think is really nice. Now, this is called quarter round. I used a piece of wooden quarter round. It's the same exact stuff, but at the model store, you can find this. This is styrene. It's the exact same thing. It's just tiny and it's quarter round. And I really like this a lot because it makes it easier. It's a little bit wider than the thickness of the styrene. So it gives it a little bit more of a platform, but it performs the exact same purpose. It allows me to have something there, a stop that I can index against against and line up, real nice. Being so small, it's not going to mess up your model. Typically, you're going to find a place. You're not going to have the whole thing. You just have a few, cut maybe a little 1/8 of an inch piece off, glue them along that line, and then I think it'll work out great. You got to be pretty careful. You've got to be, not so that it's over the line, so it's really, tight. But by getting that in there, I think you'll do real good. And then the last example is if you're going to have something that maybe needs a little strength or support, then I just cut out little tiny pieces of styrene. Again, these are much larger than they would typically be, but a piece would be maybe 1/4 of an inch long. And it just is something where when you put it on there, and let's say you did need to have a little bit more support because you're going to have something else on top of it, that just, again, gives you a real nice, little heavier duty support for the piece you're going to put on there. And, you decide which one you want. One of the reasons, and I'm kind of backtracking here, but one of the reasons that I really wanted to use the half round in this instance, or I should do it like this, in this instance, as well as this instance, it's easy to not get the exact 45-degree or, 90-degree is what I should say. Sorry. The 90-degree angle that you need when you glue this to the side. When we cut styrene, a lot of times your knife, it's going to, give you a beveled edge. It's slight, but we don't want a beveled edge, especially on this one, because that's all you've got is just the edge. So you want that edge exactly flat, exactly 90 degrees. Well, that's sometimes kind of difficult to do. So that's why I like this half round. It's already got a 90-degree edge on it by virtue of how it's made. And that makes it easier to line up. So anyway, that's just a tip that if I would have figured that out, ahead of time, that would have been awesome. I would have had no alignment issues, but it wasn't hard to fix. I'll go back to the picture here real quick again. It was easy to come back in there. And one of the things that I used a lot on this is a set of chisels. You don't need to use chisels. I use chisels because I already had them. If I didn't have something, I could use a knife. I could use whatever. But I'm going to go to the other camera and try to show you this here real quick. This is the top down. So this is just a very, very small set of chisels, and I got them in my woodworking. And I use these, and they're great because they're super sharp, and because of the way they're smaller than like, let's say a large knife or something like that, it's easier to get into very small places. Remember when I was talking about the trying to clean the channel? We're going to go back to that picture if I can figure out my what from a hole in the ground. So right there, when I'm trying to use something on that channel, this is perfect. I can get in there real easily. It's a very small tool, but it's super sharp. And it's also very stable how, it's in the handle and stuff like that. And so you can get in those channels real easily. The other one, if you don't have that or access to that, and you want to get something from, the model shop or the hobby store, this is a master, what does it say? Master Tools. But this has a little scribe point on it, and it's like a diamond shape. It's super sharp. It comes with a little protector because if you don't have it on there, stab yourself. But it also works very well for this little channel because, again, on this particular model, I like it. And by the way, it's the one I'm going to use in the diorama. If not both, at least this one. And so I like the way it came out, but it was a little finicky to build because of how those edges come together, so I just don't want you to go in thinking, yeah, I saw somebody build this and maybe I'm going to do it without you knowing that, because boy, it was a real kind of a pain to fix. It was not the easiest thing to do it because it threw a lot of other stuff off because that top went down a little bit and pushed that stuff out. then the top of it was off, or it's just so hopefully these little stops will give you a much better way to do it. And certainly that's how I'm going to do it if I come across that kind of a joint again. The Rolls Royce didn't have that issue at all. It had just proper stops and, you know, index points and things like that. There was nothing like that in the Rolls Royce. And after doing it, you know, I still love this vehicle. It's really cool. I believe I can change the front guards to the old style. And I think these are the old fenders. So I don't know. But I built both cars. I like them both. I am going to go with the Copper State for a couple of reasons. It is a little bit smaller, works in the diorama the way that I'm looking at it. And I like the look of it, you know, at the wheels, especially. I like the molded wheels a little bit more than the photo etch. And I think the photo etch, when it's all done and stuff like that, I don't think it's going to be an issue. If I could say also a little sticky tape helps. Absolutely. You know, you can put sticky tape on the inside like that. That would work good. But I really wanted to make sure that it was like a, you know, a good solid point that it could index on. So, hey, Go For It Pings here. Hello, and thanks very much for coming in. I really appreciate you stopping by. So that is kind of my review or my comparison on both of those. Would I hesitate to get either kit in the future? No. If I had a use for that one specific kit and because I've built it, absolutely, I'd buy them again. But, you know, it's nice to know that stuff. Okay, so I would like to show you our next little part. I'm just struggling, frankly, with this new camera setup. I've got, you know, this great new camera setup, and I'm just absolutely loving it. But I just got to get used to it. So I'm talking about blocking in, and so this is the blocking in for the new diorama. So the new diorama is going to be called the Hound of Mons. And I talked about that last week. The Hound of Mons is a really intriguing story about a German Shepherd that, or possibly a wolf, but it, you know, it's a myth, so who knows? But it actually started about a German Shepherd with a human brain being implanted in it, and then it was let loose on the in Dead Man's Land in World War I, and it would take British soldiers. It's pretty fanciful, but I think it's an intriguing story, and I think that there are parts of it, because of the things that it was based on, that, you know, would make a good diorama. I'm not going to show a lot of Dead Man's Land. That was something that I was thinking about early on, and this won't show a lot of Dead Man's Land. The vehicle that you can see in the lower right-hand corner, or left-hand corner, I guess, is the Copper State Models Lancaster. It's going to be behind the line. That wall almost that it's up against is going to be cut short. That's going to be basically a berm. There's going to be a way to get through to the line. Were vehicles able to get this close? I don't know. The lines during World War I fluctuated greatly at certain times. And so they would move back and they would move forward. And so sometimes it's very possible that there was an access road that was that close to a line. It's hard to say. Generally, no, I don't think so, but it's going to be in my diorama. So the other thing is, you'll notice the trench is much longer and it's quite deep. Again, it's deep because both sides of it have to be completely contoured, and that's going to lower them quite a bit. The bottom of the trench has to be raised up quite a bit. So by the time it's done, it's going to be, 7-8 foot deep. They weren't that deep in some spots. Your head got high and low, and you had your duck boards and stuff. But anyway, it's going to be long. And the reason I'm going to have a long trench is I recently was watching 1917, the movie, wonderful movie. And it shows a lot of, in the beginning of the movie, walking and moving through the trench. And there's a lot of things in there that I like to portray. The other one is gosh, it's the Peter Jackson one, and I was gonna write it down because I knew I was gonna mess this up. I can't remember the title. Please, somebody help me out with the title of Peter Jackson's documentary style. They Shall Never Die, or they're oh gosh, something. I'm sorry. But it's wonderful, and it's black and white. It's been colorized, and it goes through and shows you real accounts of World War I. And in there's lots of trench things that I really want to show, and the difficulties in the trench. So I am going to do a lot of that trench. Now, to do that with this is what I'm going to do. When I'm doing my dioramas, and I did this on my last World War I. Hey, thanks if I could paint. Yeah, They Shall Not Grow Old. Thanks very much, Rick, and thanks very much for stopping by. I'm trying to get this. That is correct, Rick. They Shall Not Grow Old. That's the one. Peter Jackson just did a wonderful job colorizing it, bringing in, really draws you in. Even the way, the cinematography, how they kind of have it zooming in as you're looking at it. It's just a wonderful movie if you haven't seen it. And very, I lose my words when I'm online, I guess, but it's very touching. It's very solemn. You really get a feel for something that somebody may have gone through, and so it's something I would encourage anybody to see if you have any interest in World War I at all. So that is the one that is absolutely correct. Thank you very much, Rick, and hello, and thank you for being on. All Quiet on the Western Front. I haven't seen the new one. I have seen the old one. And yeah, so thanks very much if I could paint, but no, it was actually That Shall Not Grow Old. So in that, I'm going to have a lot of access because I'm going to do an awful lot of detail along here. The trenches weren't just one material. They weren't being held back by just, one kind of thing. And certainly trenches were bombed out and they were repaired. And there was a very haphazard look to some of these things. So by not gluing things down, like you see here, I can remove one side, work on one side of the trench, take that side off, put the other side on, and work on it as well. So that's going to be a very long process, I imagine, but it's going to allow me to have access to all of it. Now, you'll also notice here that there's 3, full sheets down below the trench too. I am going to be going underground. I just think in those terms. I really like doing underground stuff. And so I'm going to have sappers. I'm going to have some folks digging underground. There will be, I don't know about an office or a CP or something like that, but there'll be some kind of room underground because I haven't finished watching this one, but it was Tunnel 61, I believe it was. That's another World War I movie that is about the tunnelers and the sappers that were going under, digging underneath, and setting charges or just trying to understand what the opposing force was doing. So that is something that's going to be part of this, and I'm very excited about that because there was also a lot of improvement underground, and by improvement I mean I've seen plenty of underground stuff where folks have done like a tunnel, like miners. And a miner, they're putting up supports, but then you see a lot of rock wall. Well, in France, during World War I, you had chalk, and you had sand, and you had loam, and you had all kinds of dirt that could collapse and cave in, and the chalk was very white. It was literally as white as chalk, and so they're digging through chalk, and so they had to deal with that. And by dealing with it, what I mean is it was so bright, even by candlelight, they would get snowblind. They would go snowblind because it's so bright in there when you have no other perspective and things to readjust your eyes on. You would go snowblind for a time. So there was a lot of intrigue underground. And so I'm going to show some of that. That's going to be part of the diorama as well. So the trench, and then the sappers and the tunneling, and then the structures underground, because when that stuff can collapse, you've got to put structure underground, just like you have to have structure on the sides of the trenches. So A lot of woodworking is going to go into this, and a lot of scratch building of that kind of stuff. And that's the kind of stuff that I absolutely love. So I'm really looking forward to that. So look forward to starting in on that. And then this was something that was really kind of fun. So last week we were talking about groundwork, and I wanted to show you some examples of groundwork. And one of those examples was this diorama. This is an Eastern Front ambush. It's just a diorama I did in 2018. I wanted to give you a little bit of stats on it. So here you see the stats. Man, I keep on hitting my mic. I'm so sorry, folks. I don't want to be blowing anybody out if they're wearing earphones or something like that. But it has two kits in it: the Trumpeter Soviet NKL-16 armored Aeroson. And the Aeroson is a really neat vehicle. It basically has a big prop on the end, on the back, and it is a rotary, or not a radial engine. And so, it's a big, good sized engine with a big, massive wooden prop on the back there. And it was like a pusher on 4 skis. And then I used the Russian infantry anti-tank team from Tamiya. Fun kit, gave a lot of opportunities, but, well, they weren't in winter garb. I couldn't find any Russian in winter garb. So I showed you last week how you put this thing together, and I used toilet paper. So this was toilet paper and Mod Podge. And when I put that on there, that dried, makes it hyper light. We talked about that last week. But then I also finished it before I went to snow. Oh, and Paul is saying, and thanks very much, Paul. You don't know when I've hit the mic. You only know it because I said so. So thanks. Well, and it's quite possible I'm not even pulling from that mic, because I've got 3 mics going here. So I don't even know anymore. But thanks very much. I appreciate that. So I'm going to stop talking about my mic. But anyway, thanks, Paul. Basically, this is going to be a snow scene. And when I'm doing the snow scene, I wanted to completely finish it, like I should have done it in fall, but I didn't. But I just did regular, groundwork, and then put the snow on it. And somebody was asking me about that this week. And so that's why I wanted to show this. So after I did all that finishing, then I came back, did my water, and then dusted with snow. So this came out great. I was really happy with it. I didn't want, it to be completely white. That's why I kind of had the cliff. I wanted to kind of have the snow clinging on, but also have some contrast in there. And I want to see it from both angles. And so that's why I used, here's those figures. Now for the figures, because I didn't have any winter uniforms, I just painted their regular uniforms white. And then I put basically like these white smocks over them. And I figured, well, in World War II, there was many a time they didn't have their proper uniforms and they had to make do. And so I didn't think this was too far of a reach. So then I've got him in this sniper configuration. That is a tank killing rifle. And I thought it was great. I think it came out really nice. Well, 5 years later, let's take a look at it. Well, it's, some of the stuff is busted off. This is kind of funny. I didn't expect this. That prop you see mounted on the side there, it's faded. So it must have been maybe in some sun, in a window. I don't know, but it was faded. I remember in some of the old pictures, it shows it's much darker. So these were always a pain, even during the build. So I'm rebuilding those. They just broke off. The engine was sitting beside it. 2 of the skis are shot. So replacing all that. And by doing it with this, it's going to stay a lot better, I think, because this is the part that really took all the abuse. So I'll put that back. Now, this is the number one question I get when I'm looking at like the snow product from Woodland Scenics. So the snow I used is I'm going to get a picture of it here. The snow I used, sorry. thought I had it, is Woodland Scenics. Let's get it in focus. Woodland Scenic Snowflake Snow SN140. And it's good. It's like a light snow. It goes on with, the Mod Podge and all that kind of good stuff. And I really like it. But look at it. Now, I think the overall effect is fine. Oh, I'm sorry. I had a question. Eric, yes, it is called an Aerosan. And there's 3 in the line from Trumpeter. There's a small one, like a single person one where you're open. There's this one, and then there's even a bigger one. So if you're interested, they're really, really fun kits. Thanks for the question, Eric. So if you look at this snow, you see kind of some yellowing down here, right? I took an airbrush to it, kind of a little bit higher pressure air, and tried to blow it out to see if it was dust. It does kind of look like some yellowing. So here's another picture. I got a little bit tighter. There's a little bit more. Can you see as you get closer, you can kind of see there is some yellowing. Now, underneath here, this is what was underneath the vehicle, the Aerosan. It's still a little bit yellow, not as much as here. So I do attribute this. I'm going to go to the last picture I got. I do think that some of this can be attributed to just regular dust, and it's not bad. Holy cow. That, if it was out in the shop, it would be the color of wood because of wood dust out here. But just in, their house, not a lot of dust, but you can see some yellowing, and this is underneath the vehicle. So, that was the question. That was always the question that folks were asking me or commenting on. And I didn't really have a great way to answer that through experience other than this. And since I just got it back, I wanted to show you that. Yeah, it does yellow a bit. But I do ask myself, does it take away from the overall effect of the diorama? I don't think it does. I think it looks fine. If I could have snow that wouldn't yellow over time, would I want it? Sure. You betcha. I don't know what that is. I know that Knock has snow that you can get, and they have that in Europe, and I think there are some people that import Knock. And I just got to look. I haven't looked much because I've only done this a couple of times with the snow. I've got plenty of snow to use, but I haven't done a lot of snow. And so I would like to find out if there's one that doesn't yellow. If I don't find one, like I'm saying, if I don't find one, or if I try Knock, whatever, it's not really bothering me. Some people I can see that it maybe would bother them, but I'm fine with it. Again, when you look at it, it looks fine. So that's kind of just how I feel about it. So anyway, I just want to make sure that, I could speak to it intelligently. I could actually have an example of, that, because I've been asked so many times, because I say, well, just use that. Because I do like using products that have a consistency. I think it's wonderful making your own stuff. And I'm a huge scratch builder. So I like that quite a bit. I like scratch building, and I like coming up with my own solutions. But it's just like roofing my house. I know how to roof a house. I've done roofing. I did it with my buddy, but I'm going to hire somebody to roof my house. You know what I mean? It's just not something I want to spend my time with. And I think, again, consistency wise, if I should utilize a product that, I understand they're going to be consistent. Number one, you have to establish that it's a, company that's been around for a while. That's something I look at, has the company been in operation for a while? That kind of can give you an idea of its longevity and possibility in the future. Then yeah, I kind of like that, because I'd like to be able to go back to this if I needed something, and I am either repairing an old diorama, because I could redust this thing, I guess, possibly, and it would be the same material. I like that, if it is a color-based something, then again, the consistency, so that I don't have to remix a color. Now, after 5 years, is color going to fade if it's in the sun? Sure. So, but I mean, I'm just in generalities. That's kind of how I see it. If I have to mix, because I'm also not maybe that good at mixing colors, I don't have the confidence that I could just mix that color to get that color, exact as it was. And I've got some more folks that have come on. It says, hi. It's not scratch build, but the AK Snow product range looks very good in my opinion. Thank you very much, Flokip. Is it Flopkip? Yeah, I really appreciate that, because I think that if I have different options, I do want to see if there's something out there. Like I said, if it didn't, yellow, I would prefer it. And then Sleazen, thank you very much for commenting, Sleazen, and welcome. You said, for making snow, you can use sodium bicarbonate. It looks really realistic, but I don't know if it becomes yellow. Yeah, and that's really kind of the thing. But I do like to have alternates, so it would be really fun to check it out. Now, sodium bicarbonate, would that react to anything, I wonder? Because bicarbonate tells me kind of fuzzy, or not fuzzy, fizzy, if you put it in water. So I wonder if it would react to anything. But that's a really good suggestion. I really like that. If it were sealed, I would imagine it'd be fine. So thank you very much. And I appreciate those suggestions. Yeah, I that's one of the things. And I've kind of talked a little bit to Rick Waller about this, because I'd like to try some more of the AK snuff. Just as I've been doing this, I've been kind of using Vallejo. That's just what's been available. And I haven't really branched out. And it seems like over the last few years, a lot of companies are coming out with more and more diorama stuff, for ground effects and this and that, and textures, which is huge in dioramas, obviously. And I'd like to really get into that. I saw Rick do a blacktop, road, and man, it was just brilliant. And I can't remember what he used for that, but it really came out good, and it was because of the texture he was able to get out of it. Sleazen, I already got that one. If you could bicarbonate with soda with white acrylic paint, that also works. Yeah, there you go. Now, with the white acrylic, will it I wonder if it would kind of clump it or something, because that's one of the things about this that I do like. You put it on, I put it on, at least, by putting on some Mod Podge, a little thinner, sprinkle this stuff over it, and then I put Mod Podge that's been pretty well thinned over the top of that, and that sinks in. So the nice thing about this is it has a really light, not like a solid feel to it. Hey, let me go to my other camera. That might be better. So it has a really light, kind of, not fluffy, but, there's a high textured feel to it. And that's one of the things that I'm worried about. I wouldn't want to lose, because I do like that. It does pick up light well. And I think that's, that's what we want, picking up light and being able to work with the light. And if you can pick up some of the undulations of light as it's coming across the snow, that would be perfect. So yeah, I would worry about that. Yes, I did this, and nice, but don't look like powdered snow. Yeah, see, there you go, Sleazen. Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. Would it still look like powder? The cool thing is maybe you just do it for like underneath to get your contour, get your drifts, and then dust over it. Maybe that would work too. And then if I could paint, was saying, does have you apply it with a damp paintbrush? Yeah, there you go. And then maybe the water filtering through it, because that's the same thing that happens when I use Mod Podge in water. Rick says, AK asphalt was used top layer spackling, plaster, bicarbonate, or baking soda will yellow over time. Okay, so AK asphalt is definitely one. There's three things in here. AK asphalt is definitely something I want to try, because asphalt's super hard, and to get cracks, like, how you'll get a big pothole in the road and then it'll crack off, and then like a big piece will be like chunks will be out there. Well, Rick was able to do that with the AK asphalt. So that's really what intrigued me about it. So that's what I want to try. And then top layer spackling plaster. got it, to kind of fill in. And then for the bicarbonate or baking soda will yellow over time. So there you go. There's your answer. It will. So that's, I think if you don't have stuff, I like to go to those alternates, but I'm still going to use this if I can't find something that doesn't yellow. Now, here's the other thing. Has anybody ever used like a UV protected coating, like a clear UV coat? They have that for woodworking. I don't know about, applying it to the stuff we do in dioramas, but that's definitely something I want to look into, because sometimes in wood, it's not necessarily that it's yellowing, it's actually oxidizing. And so it's oxidizing because of air and UV light. And so if you could try to block it a little bit, you can't always, especially if you want clear, but if you try to block that, that can slow that process. So I wonder if there's any kind of UV blocker clear that would work in this application. I don't know. I'm thinking out loud. I do that a fair amount, I guess. It does apply with damp. Okay, yeah, we saw that. Let's see. Autocorrect. Sorry, that should say that you can make it look very light and fluffy if you apply it with a stippling motion with a damp brush. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. Gotcha. Hey, Martin is here. Hello, Martin. Tuning in last minute for a few minutes. Hi, everyone, and cheers from Holland. Thank you very much, Martin, for coming on. I saw your picture earlier today. It was a great picture, by the way. Thanks very much. Okay. So, yeah, I think that, try to get some examples. I'm going to do a little bit more research because I don't have anything coming up at snow, but I like to know what my options are, right? I want to know what's there and what's available, because if I think snow, man, I want to know what to go to. Right now, nothing has changed me from this, but I know that Knock and AK have some out there, and so I'm going to want to use or take a look at those. So that is about it for today's show. I didn't have a whole lot, but I would love to answer any other questions. And I got another one's here. Turning last minute for a few minutes. Hi. Oh, okay. Sorry. John. Hey, John, how's it going? Hi. You sandpaper with grays and scratch built with a piece of metal and scratch with a piece of metal. Sandpaper with grays and scratch with a piece of metal. I'm not sure what you're saying there, or what you're commenting on, John, but let me go back and see. Tuning last minute. Okay, so you apply stippling motion, damp brush, use sandpaper with grays. Yeah, I'm sorry, John. I'm not 100% sure what you're saying, but if you can get back in that one, I'll definitely go ahead. For snow, you can build up the base layers with whatever, paint it with bluish colors, and then a top light layer of micro balloons, which adds sparkle. Micro balloons. I've heard of those. Yeah, that's kind of cool. I've not done that. I need to check into that one, Rick. Thank you very much. Yeah, because the sparkle would be great. And I've done some of the painting underneath it with white mostly, but blue I hadn't thought of. That's really cool. I like that. Thank you very much. Martin says, haha, yes, safety first. You betcha. Sleazen, it's the first time for me on your live. How often do you live? Hey, thanks very much for asking, Sleazen. I do this every Friday. So every Friday I go live at noon. Typically I'm talking about my current stuff that I'm working on, but sometimes it's topical, like somebody wants to talk about something. Somebody had like a comment, or sometimes I have like a special guest on, like John Robeck was on. So yeah, it's every Friday, live at noon. It's hour to an hour and a half ish. Sometimes I think the longest show has been 2 hours, but I love it. And I'm happy you're here, and can't wait, and hope you're going to be back on. Mark says, I'm only finding Knock products via eBay or Amazon or direct from Germany. Yeah, because it's a German product, but I wonder if it's good. I got some from Eric, and Mark knows Eric, who I'm talking about. His was Knock, but heck, he might have got it in Germany. I don't know, but I have seen some online. But yeah, like I say, that's the only ones I know. Now, AK, I imagine, would have it in the States, you know, because somebody mentioned AK has it. So I'm going to have to take a look at it. Okay, John Hayes has come back. The Road, the Grays. Oh, I got you. Yeah, very cool point. A Road would look pretty good, like some of the heavier sandpaper would look pretty good. I wonder if you could do that. I think for like cement, maybe that would really good. I know that Rick Lawler used it on top for like some roofing material. That looked great, you know. But I get you. Yeah, for the Road, sandpaper might work. What else? I mean, it's you kind of want a consistency, right? And you kind of want it to have a little bit of shine. Then you want to dull it down for that, you know, pavement being laid down and all that kind of stuff. I want to try definitely the AK asphalt because it does look pretty consistent. And I think Night Shift, he had mentioned something like that, some kind of an asphalt product that he's working with. And let's see, Mark says Hobby Link in Atlanta carries some. There we go. For me, in France, it's 10 p.m. Oh, right on. Thank you very much, Sleazen. So yeah, if that's a great time for you, I hope that you can come back because yeah, every Friday we're gonna do it. Thanks very much for coming in from France. That's wonderful. I will come back. Wonderful. Thanks very much, Sleazen. Martin says, maybe a question then. How would you approach making a hollow round vertical wall? I am thinking about doing a Star Wars space hangar type scene. Is this on topic for tonight? Sure, absolutely. We always want to talk about just dioramas. Hollow round wall. Well, I mean, it would just I would try to find a tube, you know, something like that. When I've done those things, I think, like, I'm going to get one real quick and show you. I think these are what I prefer. So this, and I'm not trying to promote anything other than the tube here, but these tubes are pretty sturdy. And so if you can get a tube that either, you know, carries a libation, an alcohol, or maybe even a wine, I don't know. But these tubes are great. They're just a little bit stronger than other stuff that I've used. And when I've tried to bend things, sure, you can bend it, but there's always got to be like a support structure, you know, below it after it's bent to keep that nice round structure. And maybe you don't want that. So this is, you know, if it's the right size, obviously, this is what I use. And I've got a bunch of these, so I have used it a few times. But that's really kind of what I do. I've also carved stuff, and some of the like the thinner foams and stuff like that you can apply around things like that if you're doing brick or whatever. But yeah, I would use those tubes. They work great. And also Martin, and for everybody, you know, it's How-To Diorama. So really all questions are open. I kind of have the stuff that I talk about so that there's something to talk about if somebody's not asking me questions. But I want you to ask me questions. I don't know everything, certainly, but I would love to talk about stuff. I've got a lot of experience. And if I don't know stuff, I typically like to go chase it down. So yeah, everybody ask questions. I love it. Okay. John Hayes, asphalt, use sandpaper with grays, cracks, use metal scratch sandpaper. I gotcha. Yeah, I would like to try that because I've got the sandpaper, number one. But that might be a nice way to do it, especially if you don't have that other stuff. I think the other thing that I liked about what Rick was doing is it just had the depth. You could have a serious pothole or a serious crack. Whereas if you were using the sandpaper, it might be harder to kind of form that. You could do it, certainly, you know, but that might be a little bit harder to form it. But I think a really good idea, especially if you don't have that other stuff. And I love using stuff that you don't have. If or you do have when you don't have the stuff that you want. I think that forces you to be creative. I think that kind of pushes you into things that you maybe wouldn't do, and then you discover stuff. So I think it's just wonderful. They have different grits and sandpaper. Yeah, absolutely. Yep. So all the different kind of grits. Eric, round concrete forms from a hardware store. Hey, there you go. That's not a bad idea. To set it up and then actually do concrete, maybe. Yeah. That's the other thing. I wonder if you could add sand to like the sanded grout. I mean, it's got sand in it, but it's like a much, much finer sand. I'm saying add like, drainage sand, which is a bigger grit. Add that to the sanded grout, or maybe even just grout, because it would have bigger sand in it, almost like doing, either cement or asphalt. I don't know. I'm just saying, might be. Oatmeal tube, perfect. Oatmeal tube would work great. Yeah. This is totally small. I was thinking about binding thin foam or balsa. That would work. Maybe a toilet paper tube or something like that. But yeah, when thin foam or balsa, the only problem that I have when I'm trying to wrap and make my own tube, which I've done, obviously, is you got to hold it until it completely dries, or you don't get a complete round to it. It'll kind of teardrop on you. It can go out of round. But yeah, I mean, that would work just great. Also, if it's pretty small and you don't want something in it, just form it around a dowel and then slide the dowel out. I think that would work out great. Too small, I meant. Too small. Gotcha. Yeah. I was thinking about binding thin foam or balsa. So yeah. So maybe an arc is maybe what you were thinking. I like forms when I'm doing stuff, and I'm lucky enough to have, a wire cutter, one of the a Proxxon wire cutter I got at the beginning of COVID. And then what I'll do is I'll maybe, draw out an arc, and then I'll cut the arc on the wire cutter, and then I'll use the foam as a form. If it's like a long arc you're trying to get, So anyway, yeah, I think all of those things work to get that. Sleazen says, I wonder how much time you spend making a diorama. Yeah, it really depends. I like to do kind of complicated dioramas, and like 5 months is not that long when I think about a diorama for me. I've done ones that are 8 months, 9 months, even 15 months. So I've done some very, very long builds, and it really depends on the complexity. The last one that I did was not very complicated, I guess, but it was still 5 months. And in terms of other people that I see building dioramas, I think I'm slow. I think I'm a slow builder. But I think I'm hoping it's okay, But yeah, it takes a very long time. Snow, use baking soda with water, down PVA white glue, some white acrylic paint. Yeah, I think somebody suggested that before, and I think that would work. It's that light fluffiness that I think this provides pretty good, And I'd like to try the bubble beads or whatever. I'm going to go back and look that up, because what Rick was saying, he's got a lot more experience than I have, and I think that would be a good one to look into. And then John says Vallejo makes snow and mud products. Yeah, very cool. I do have some Vallejo snow. Actually, I have it up here, and their snow is more. Well, I think they probably have other, but it's more of a paste. Yeah, and maybe they've got some powdery and lighter stuff. And I've used this and it works great. But it's more like, for this, I would use this, the Vallejo snow. I would use this for like putting snow on tracks, that kind of thing. where it's or like building up ice. You see like on the back of a car going over the pass or something like that. That's what I would use that one particularly for. I'm not really looping for a tube, but an arc, yes. Yeah, so an arc, I think, I don't have it in here, but I like to use the pink foam. Martin is asking, okay, so how do I do an arc? How do I create that? And I think, yeah, doing it where you maybe create a form and then putting even paper over it and then some thin strips of foam. I think Mark Duramus told us last week where to get that thin underlayment. It is a foam that they use under floors. And so it's very thin, and that would go on an arched surface very nicely. And you could still like carve in it or put other stuff on it. CW Modeling uses this a lot. CW Modeling is in the UK, and he's a wonderful model builder and diorama builder and painter and everything. I mean, he's really great. But look at that and see what they have, because he gets that, and it's this black thin foam. And again, it's for the underlayment of wooden floor, or like wood floors. If you're putting floor down, it's very thin XPS foam, and it's flexible enough to put it on there. Now, how you mount it, this is what I like to use. And I'm going to go right back to their Woodland Scenics, because I honestly just, that's what I use and I like it. I'm going to get it here. Here it is. I use foam tack glue. It's not the only glue I use, but when I'm doing a foam to a foam, I like to use this, because you put it on, you allow it to dry until it's clear. It starts out wet or white because it's a PVA glue. Once it goes clear, then you put them together. It's very tacky and sticky, and it works really well. If you use regular PVA glue when you're trying to glue down some of the like non-porous things, like some of these foams, the glue won't dry. It has to have air to dry. So that's why this stuff works really good. The other glue I use is Gorilla Glue. Gorilla Glue is great, but because it expands, Gorilla Glue can physically change the surface, right? So you've got it on a dead flat piece of board, and then you've got, and it's maybe thin foam that you're using. As the Gorilla Glue expands, it can actually change the surface. So you got to be careful with it. If you are gluing down that, you need to make sure that you're gluing the entire surface, and then you're supporting the entire surface, both sides, so you don't lose your shape. Or you could have kind of a undulating surface. That's really only on the thin stuff. On thicker stuff, I think you'd be fine. But yeah, it's just something to be careful about Gorilla Glue, because it does expand. It's the type of glue that expands. It's a polyurethane type glue. Boy, I hope I didn't muck that up and say it wrong, but I believe it's polyurethane. And I use that, and it works great. That's typically what I do on the substrate underneath it. Works fantastic, but that's a much thicker piece of foam. Okay, so you just want to be careful with that stuff. John says, AK and have snow terrain, deep snow. Yeah, there you go. That's the stuff I probably need to look at, because that might be the, like the fluffier kind of snow, because I think that's kind of what I would like to have. Okay, and then Martin says, sorry, autocorrect, looking for an arc as you picked up. So thanks. Yeah, perfect. I think we're good. Ice melting slushy, use AK mixed with acrylic water or glossy varnish. Oh, I like that idea. Yeah, because like slush, man, that's a big one, especially when you're doing vehicles. When I was watching those two movies that I mentioned earlier, They Shall Not Grow Old and 1917. And thanks very much, everybody, for getting that title back to me. There was an awful lot of mud, man. Oh my gosh, that was some horrible stuff. And so it's just, when I'm trying to figure out, I'm figuring out a season, or I'm doing this or I'm doing that. And when it gets down to these finite details, there's so much that can go into it. So the mud, am I going to have it like icy mud? Is it going to be cold? Is it going to be, do I need to have a little bit? I don't know yet on this diorama, but now that we're talking about so much snow, I'm probably going to have like a cold in my latest diorama in the trench, which being cold can make it much more interesting too, because you do different things in the cold, and people have a bunch more blankets if they can get a hold of them. There might be a little fire. So yeah, I think that's pretty cool. So anyway, I just go on these tangents, got info from Reddit. I don't know. White flocking, make it white. Yeah, see, so white flocking, I think is well, there's different kinds of flocking, because if you look up flocking, like you're doing like a Christmas tree flocking, that's big stuff, right? It comes from the spray can. You can do that kind of stuff. Hard to control something that you're spraying out of a can. Super difficult. What I'm doing here is I'm really trying to surgically get in there and just get on what I want. That stuff out of a can flocking that you like spray on trees and stuff like that, man, yeah, it's not, I don't think for this application it would be very good, and it's also, I think, made to clean up. So it's almost like a foam, So yeah, I don't think I would use that. Flocking and making it white. Yeah. Like I say, it depends on the application. All the snow is working me into a future diet. Mark, you're exactly right. I'm thinking now of, wait a minute, as we're talking about all this and the cold and stuff, I'm thinking about the mud and the footprints in the mud that I saw in the movie 1917. I'm thinking, okay, I could put a little ice on those footsteps and the little water in, those little, all of this stuff comes to mind. Yeah, I'm right there with you, Mark. It's making me want to do a winter one. Plus, it's been hotter than Hades out here, so it would be fun to do something in the snow. But yeah, that was a lot of fun. And thanks, everybody. Please, when you have those questions, you have those comments, do throw them in there, because I think it makes it more interesting. And, one of the things that we do when I do group builds and things like that on Friday night, we have my patrons, they're in the group build. We talk about all that kind of stuff because it is an open forum, right? It's meant to just get together and talk about building. Well, I want this to be a little bit more like that. It should be, hopefully, you're comfortable to just ask whatever questions you want. I'll have topics, sure, but that's just a kind of close space if there's nobody talking. So thanks very much. Appreciate it. Eric says, clear acrylic or clear plastic from grocery store containers would work great for broken ice. I like that. And did you see what Rick did with the waterfall? I don't know what that plastic was that he used. I saw him and I was editing while I was watching it, but I'd like to see what that was. Maybe it was just saran, because it looked really cool. And that could work on broken ice on like a pond or something like that too. Man, I got to do ice now. I suppose how to approach snow may be differ per scale, and small scales group appropriately painted might work. Yeah, grout appropriately painted might work. Yeah, I think that's very true. And if you get it too grainy, it's not going to look right. And if it's like if you're super small, you do want it smoother. You do want to kind of have it like more sculpted and painted, maybe, instead of something real grainy if it's a real small scale. What about using very thin sand to recreate the powder, mixing with water and PVA glue, then applying it on the ground and painting it white? Yeah, I think that is a good way to do it. And that's kind of what I was thinking about asphalt, but you could do it with snow too. I think that the only difference being is I was saying before, when you do that, it almost becomes a paste. It almost, hey, yeah, I got to do my other camera. Sorry. It almost becomes a paste. And so this, and I'm going to see how close I can get and get a view. See, that makes it look a little bit more, and that's that texture. And you see when the shadows go across it, I'm trying to play it in the light here so you can see that snow texture. I like that texture a lot. I think that adds a lot to it. And then you see that there's a little bit of snow in the tracks that have already been created, like in this dark area, there's a little bit of snow there. So I think that's important too, to try to capture, that it's been snowing even after they're walking in it. And so if you're using something else, that you have to put down and then paint, that might be a little bit, difficult to create that kind of a look. But again, lots of different scenarios, lots of different things that you can do. So yeah, that's a good idea. John Hayes, make a diorama snow globe effect so you can pick it up and make it snow. That would be crazy change. Yeah, that would be kind of cool. I wonder though, like you see these dioramas, or not dioramas, but snow globes. I wonder what paint they use. I don't know, maybe enamel or something like that. Because I've had snow globes because, everybody buys their wife a snow globe. I've bought my wife snow globes, and some of them fade. The paint inside fades over time, and it's not in direct sunlight. It's in light, but not direct sunlight. So, but that would be kind of fun. And I think it would be kind of cool to do a World War I snow globe. Yeah, great idea. Thanks, John. That was cool. Okay. So, are there any other questions? I want to make sure I get them all. I only do this once a week, but I'm glad I do it once a week. So every Friday at noon, we come out, I do this. There's usually a topic, and I'll just talk about whatever comes up. And when you're asking those questions, that's great. If you ever would like to send me a request, like something, hey, I would like to talk about this beforehand, gosh, do it. It's great. Because that's fun. I mean, I enjoy that. I honestly kind of search for a topic every week. I'm not all organized. It's not like, oh yeah, I've got this like spreadsheet and calendars and everything's all, not at all. Like each week I'm like, what the heck am I going to talk about this Friday? Because I'm a pretty reactive person. I'm a pretty topical person, right? So planning would be a lot better, but I don't enough. I do think about it all week, but a lot of times I'm scrambling, honestly, just to get this thing together. I imagine there'll be a day that I'll come online like, I have nothing to talk about. I don't know what the heck but it'll happen. Who knows? But I surely enjoy it. And so I would love to, have different topics or different subjects and things like that. When I do my consulting, because that's one of the other things I do is I do consulting, we talk about it ahead of time. Because on a virtual consult, I don't want to be running around and wasting their time, right, in getting stuff. So what we'll do is we'll talk a little bit about it ahead of time. And then on the consult, I'll have all my stuff all set up. And then I can demonstrate what we're talking about, or we can build together, or whatever the case may be. So yeah, it can be the same thing for our live stream on Fridays. Just give me a topic, something you're interested in. And I mean, I'll tell you if I've never done it, but if I have, yeah, we'll just dive right in. And I think it'd be a lot of fun. So there you go. I've got some more comments here. And Sleason says, for a waterfall, I saw a really talented model using fishing rod line, very thin and almost transparent, when they recovered it with transparent glue. That's a really cool idea. I've not seen that one. Thanks very much, Sleason. No, I've seen lots of them where, they've done, and like Rick did a waterfall with a bag, a clear, I say bag, it might have been just like, saran wrap. Okay. But I thought he said bag when he was doing it, and it came out brilliant. It looks really cool because it looks like that. So yeah, fishing rod line or fishing line would be pretty cool because it'd give you those streakiness. I like that a lot. That'd be fun. Okay, and Scott says, did you ever get the storyboards on Carol and Emma's diorama? Just wondering. No, I have not, but thank you very much, Scott. So, folks, this is really kind of embarrassing. I'm working on the videos for Emma, Carlos, and Ichiro. So now, for some of you folks that don't know, this is my last completed diorama, and I love this diorama. And I'm going to be building more in that universe probably very soon. But I haven't finished the storyboards that go around it. I've told the story, little bits and pieces here and there, but I've not done a comprehensive telling of the story soup to nuts, right? And I'm really trying to figure out how to do that. And I want to do it in storyboard form so it's on the diorama, and so that as somebody comes up to it, they can read it. And so while I know the entire story, the issue is getting it into a format that is not a book, on the side of this diorama, because I can't expect people to just sit there and just, paragraphs. So I'm just trying to do it in a method that's going to get it across. It's concise. It tells the story, but also hopefully get some of the emotion, because when I'm building a diorama, I really think about emotion. I really think about communicating ideas and trying to get across a feeling. I don't want you to just look at it and if your day's going terrible, you look at my diorama and your day is still going terrible. No, I want your day to be a little bit better after looking at one of my dioramas. I want to communicate an idea. I want to communicate maybe an emotion. And the only way to do that is to really put the detail in, as well as have the supporting story not overwhelm or conflict the thing that I'm showing visually, but just an enhancement, so that you're really concentrating on the visual thing that I've built, but then the little story, the little thing that I'm putting down there just fills in gaps. Does that make sense? It's almost like a synopsis, but see, that's why it's so hard. Now, the great thing is John Robeck, and he's a watcher, and he's on here a lot, and a patron, great guy. He does some graphics, and he's offered to help me with some of the graphics that I want to do once I get the graphics done. So I'm working on the story, I'm working on those graphics, and I do want to do it. And I want to tell the story in its complete form. So if anybody wants to hear that, tell me, because, I don't want to be like, Uncle Bill, sitting down for story time, but I would like to tell the story. Because for me, it's a wonderful story, and it's very personal. So that's what I'm hoping to get into dioramas, and thank you very much, Scott, for keeping me on track there. And I'm working on it, and I'm not there yet. Martin had a point. Did Antonelli consider using a thin metallic paint like gunmetal to try and create the refraction from ice crystals in some dry snow? That's a really good idea. I don't know if you would need to. I think one of the things that Rick Lawler had mentioned earlier was there are some like beads, and those will give a really nice reflection. So I want to look at those, because I've heard of them before. They're like little micro bead deals, and I haven't used them. I don't even know what they're called, but I have heard of it, and I want to check that out. So I think that might be a good one for the reflection, because some of these little reflective surfaces, they don't only reflect just like a sparkle, but they could have some color in it, and if you can get like a bluish, reflection back from that, or a little bit of sparkle in blue, that I think will enhance it quite a bit. And those little micro bead deals, micro balloons, I got to look this up before I talk. And give you the proper feedback on that. But yeah, it's something I want to check out. And he was saying anyone, he was saying, did anyone consider using a thin metallic paint? That's what Martin was saying. But you know what? Here's something on that I just thought of. What about some of that pearlescent paint? I don't know. I've never used pearlescent paint, but I've seen it. Eric, it was a bag like that kind used in the product section at the grocery store. Yeah, exactly. Okay, John, have a diorama with a tilt bed that flips so you can show daylight on one side, not on the other, or summer and snow. I like that idea a lot. Also, okay, so we're Stranger Things fans, my wife and I, Mrs. Modelcraft and I watch Stranger Things all the time. And so the upside down, you could have something showing the upside down and the right side up. That would be kind of cool. I like that idea. John's always got great ideas, by the way. Anybody ever notice that? I've never built any dioramas, just curious. I think you should do it. John, you've got great ideas, and it is so fun. There's John Robeck. How's it going, sir? Yeah, I was just thinking, when you offered to help with a little bit with those graphics, I probably need to take you up on that. I appreciate it very much. Because I have an idea, even colors in mind, but I don't know what I want. And I got to get that text corrected for the story of Emma, Carlos, and Ichiro. You'd make a great story. Well, thank you very much, Scott. That's really nice. I think storytellers are great. And I've always thought I would be a horrible storyteller because when I was in business, every once in a while you have to get up on the podium, right? You're doing a presentation or something like that, and it's really dry stuff. It's like, laser cutting machinery, blah, blah, blah. How to market a whatever. And so I would try to tell a joke, and it would just always just completely fall flat. I'm just like the horriblest speaker. Horriblest? Terrible speaker. We'll put it like that. But thank you very much. I think it would be great to be a great storyteller because I'm always fascinated by wonderful storytellers, somebody that can really get you into the story. And I guess when a storyteller can make you look at them, but they're not seeing you, they're seeing the story, that's a great storyteller because that's what I love. That kind of thing is neat. John, huge tilt table that has some compartments that tilt storyboards like Chris. Oh, I like that idea. Excuse me, Mrs. Modelcraft. She buys those countdown calendars. What are they for Christmas? The 12 days of Christmas or 25 or whatever. Event calendars. Jiminy Christmas. So an event calendar, she buys those for all of our nieces and nephews and cousins and just all the kids in the family. And a diorama like that would be pretty slick. And I also like, the old clocks where the people come out of the clocks and stuff. I like that. I just think that's really cool. And Eric, pearlescent paint can sometimes have some color to it. That's what I was kind of thinking. And Eric would know because I think you've done some professional painting before. And something with like a bluish tint or maybe even a green, but pearlescent would be kind of cool. I wouldn't want the pinks, sometimes you get the pink pearlescent, and I've seen that, but like a bluish pearlescent, that would be pretty awesome. But Scott says a friend and I painted the engine compartment of her 46 Chevy pickups black pearl. Oh yeah, there you go. That would be nice. I've not seen black pearl, but that would look really, really cool. Flokip, thanks, Bill. I have to go now, but we'll watch the rest tomorrow. Keep up the good work. Well, thank you very much, Flokip. I really appreciate it. And please educate me on how to pronounce your name if I'm not doing it properly, because I'm really, really great at messing stuff up. So it's just my thing. There you go. Okay, well, thanks very much, everybody. It has been an hour and a half. If there's no more questions, let's get them in now because I'll end it. But I do want to talk about my patrons because tonight we are doing it's the third Friday of the month. And so we are doing all patrons on the group build tonight. And the group build's fun. We just get together and it's just like this, but we're talking models and we're just building and we're like, hey, have you seen that? Or you done that? Blah, blah, blah. But it's a lot of fun. So if you are a patron, look for that tonight. If you're not a patron, you could become a patron and you could be part of that tonight. It's a lot of fun. And it's from 6 to 9 p.m. So yeah, it's pretty late. And if I need to do those on another day, I think once I get more patrons, I don't have all that many, but they're wonderful folks. Then maybe we could do it on a different day. I'm not opposed to that at all. I think it'd be fine. The coolest thing is just like when you get together and you're all talking and just building. And in that case, it wouldn't be just like texting in. When we do that, you have to have a camera, right? But you can be online and we can just talk back and forth and it's a lot of fun. So anyway, if that's interesting to you, please look at my Patreon. It is Scale Modelcraft at Patreon. And I think it's a lot of fun. I got a lot of other stuff up there that is not anywhere else. And then I also put stuff up there that's like, commercial free and all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to see if I have a slide for my patrons because that would be awesome. And I do. Look at that. So these are my patrons. And I have a new patron. He just came on last week, Daniel White. And I think I talked to him about him last week too. Daniel's got a really cool project that he really wants some help with. And it was earlier that we were talking about some supplies and things like that. And when you're a patron, there's also Discord, and I'm just now starting to get that Discord thing a little bit of an understanding. So it's on every day, and I'm contributing. So I would love for you to take a look at Patreon and see if you like that, because then you could also get on Discord. So thank you very much, everyone. I got one more slide. There we go. There's the thanks for watching sign. And then I can go back to me. There we go. So thanks very much, everybody, for coming on. It was super nice seeing, and we had like new folks on today, Flo Kip and who else was up here? It was Sleazen was new this week, and that's really cool for you guys to come on, and I really enjoy it. So thank you so much, everyone. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. It is Friday, so get out there and do something fun. In this neck of the woods, the Pacific Northwest of the United States, it's going to be a little bit nicer, not quite so hot, so you might be able to get out and do something. And if not, you could be building, and that would be the coolest thing ever. If you are a patron, remember, I'll get that email out to you right around 5:30, and then we will start at 6 o'clock, and I'm looking forward to seeing you all there. I got some new comments. I got to get them before I get out of here. I don't want to lose anybody's comments. Enjoy your eating. Thank you very much, John. I really appreciate that. Scott, thanks, Phil, for all you do. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks very much, Scott. Hope you're doing well, and I'll text you and talk to you a little bit later on. And then John Robeck says, thanks, Bill. Thanks, John. I appreciate it. And then Mark, what's the Discord address? Thanks. Bye now. I'll go ahead and get it to you. It should be on Patreon, Mark. And I think everybody has Discord on Patreon. So if you don't know it, we'll get you there, Mark, so you can get on there, because you can post your own work. I post stuff. You can just post ideas. There's even a place where we can like talk and stuff like. I just haven't done that yet. So yeah, be a lot of fun. And that's open. Thanks very much, Eric. I really appreciate it, sir. Great to see you. And I'm looking forward to next weekend, by the way. Oh, that's going to be a heck of a lot of fun. And Martin, thank you very much, Martin, for coming on. I really, really appreciate it. Thanks much, everybody. So have a great weekend. Be safe out there. Enjoy your summer and get some modeling done, because, there's nothing better than modeling. So we'll see you. Bye-bye.